So we have an election coming up, a snap election coming up in the UK between Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn, a declared democratic socialist, is standing up to the economic inequality in the UK. He's standing up to a failed Brexit that the right wing in UK tried to stage, and it has failed miserably. And there's a lot on the line in this election. As for a lot of parties involved, as we know, Brexit and the Trump situation here in America was very intertwined as far as the beginning of a noticeable rejection of neoliberalism. But in this rejection of neoliberalism, it didn't go left. It went right into the far right in both countries. And you started seeing more right wing populism happen in France, where Macron barely won his election. We've seen the far right rise in Brazil. We're seeing it now in Bolivia. You're going to start seeing it in more and more places. And the one thing that can be said is that if Jeremy Corbyn is to win this election, it means to me that democratic socialism is an electable stance to have, an electable viewpoint of politics to have. And I think that it would bode well for a Bernie Sanders campaign in the primary and in general to ride that type of momentum.
I think that it will, but I don't really want Bernie to be associated with Jeremy Corbyn. Corbyn has been allegedly a long-standing, like, anti-Semitic political figure, and he's had ties to Hamas and Hezbollah. He even went to some Middle Eastern country where he celebrated the terrorist attack of the 1978 Olympics, and mourned them like that. That's in bad taste. And
yes.
Then I saw from, I believe it was the Guardian, in the Westminster area, 48% of Jewish people are considering immigrating because they're that afraid of Corbyn and his anti-Semitic views. I mean, not all politicians aren't clean, and right. He has a lot of things that are very liberal as far as their NHS and national health care services.
Expanding and improving upon that.
Yeah, but so
education.
Johnson said he wanted to add 40 more hospitals, 6,000 more
doctors.
doctors.
But Johnson's also a pathological liar in the mode of Donald Trump.
That is true. I mean, but that's most politicians. They say they get on the campaign trail, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and they make all the promises.
Well, I don't think that just because what I don't think is that just because, look, it doesn't matter who the politician is that's running for leader of a country.
Right.
They're never going to get their entire agenda implemented.
No, that's not.
It's just not, like, literally, unless they.
You have to have concessions. You have to give certain things.
And you have to, like, declare yourself the freaking king or queen of that country to get your entire agenda accomplished. So I don't think we should be missing the forest for the trees here, though. And I say that because right now, in a similar way to our country, in the UK, you have such an economic disparity between the haves and have-nots. You have a country that has been wrecked by trade deal. You have a country, bad trade deals. You have a country that has been sold out to the corporations. And I understand the concern about Jeremy Corbyn and his anti-Semitism or alleged anti-Semitism. I still think that's more of a I don't like throwing those type of words onto politicians, because if those are his personal views, like, well, I'll consider that when, it's a declared type of stance that he has. He has a very close working relationship with Bernie Sanders as far as using similar rhetoric. Bernie Sanders is well known to be Jewish. I don't think that is. I think another reason why Jeremy Corbyn is sometimes tagged as anti-Semitic is because he is another politician who is not afraid to stand up to Israel and the influence.
Israel and Nazi Germany, which
If you see what's going on in the Gaza Strip, yeah, they kind of are. They're literally right now. They're doing genocide on the Palestinian people. They're doing the ethnic cleansing on the Gaza Strip. They're destroying homes without permission. And so Jeremy Corbyn is a politician who is not afraid to call out Israel and its influence that it has in multiple countries across this globe. You want to talk about foreign governments being influenced by, our government being influenced by foreign governments? Look at AIPAC. Look at Israel and what they do and how much money we're sending them in aid, and for very little in return. And so that's a part of it too. And the only reason why Bernie Sanders isn't called out and called anti-Semitic for also speaking harshly towards Israel is because he's Jewish. Like if he wasn't, they'd immediately call him that. But I mean, as far as his ties with Middle Eastern terrorist organizations and, celebrating terrorist attacks, stuff like that, I think that is a concern. And definitely looking at that 48, I wasn't aware of the 48% Jewish voters.
That's only one sect, though. That's in Westminster, and that's a large, I believe it's a Tory area. It's a form of political party that's kind of like middle of the road that went to the Labor side. But a lot of those aren't. See, the thing is, as you said, they mirror us a lot. Because as far as the Brexit thing, the Labor, it was 3 out of 10 of them wanted to go, and then you went on the conservative side, 3 out of 10 wanted to stay. So it's like
they're polarized.
Yeah, and it is kind of like us, where it's split, and it just comes down to basically the minority here, and it's going to go down to that over there as well. Now, the conservatives, they throw out like all these figures that's saying like that under Corbyn he'll allow in like 900,000 people from the EU.
Open borders crap. Yeah,
but that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is that if you've got family and you are a British citizen, they can come over, and there will be open borders, but it won't be like it was before. Yeah, because Corbyn's he's not the biggest fan of the EU. He called it a Frankenstein zombie machine.
Exactly.
But it's still better for you.
Yeah, it's something that it's one of those things where, right now the system isn't ideal, but it is a system that we have to operate within.
Right.
And let's talk about Boris Johnson though, because if you want to talk about a comical person being the leader of a powerful nation, and not say Donald Trump, you would immediately look to his doppelganger over in the UK known as Boris Johnson. They look so much alike. They talk alike. They say the same ridiculous things a lot.
They both got weird hairstyles.
Very weird hairstyles that are just odd. He's a really weird dude, but he's dangerous though, because he is the leader of this country. It's just like Donald Trump. It's funny because he's so stupid. You can't believe the things he said, but it's still dangerous though, because people's lives are being not just in this country or in the UK, but these are two countries that are world leaders.
Yeah.
So the actions that our leadership takes here affects a lot of people across the globe. That's why they say sometimes when you're in an election, you're not voting for anyone, but you need to vote for the people around the world, because they have to live with that president too. And I would say to a lesser degree, it'd be the same for prime minister between Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn. And this whole right-wing talking point is so stupid and ridiculous about open borders. Nobody is calling for open borders. Open borders is not having a humane immigration platform or policy standard. That's not open borders. Open borders are literally come on in, baby, come in unchecked, or a very minimal, security clearance or whatever. What people like Jeremy Corbyn are calling for, and other politicians that are on the more populist left are calling for, is humane, comprehensive, and fast-acting immigration. So what you don't have is that you have a backup of immigrants who are waiting to come into your country. So then what happens? Some of those immigrants are going to sit there and come into the country illegally. And that's going to create unrest. And, I have my own opinion about whether or not people should be feeling unrest because someone comes into their country and comes into their home all of a sudden. It's not necessarily a black and white, left and right view, because I think that there is some merit to that. But you have immigration where right now in most of our major countries, we don't have the capacity right now because we don't have enough judges, we don't have enough caseworkers to allow people to come in an expedited way into this country, or into their country as well. And so what ends up happening is you get the backup of immigrants, and then you get some of them coming in illegally. You get another wave of them coming in all together because everybody gets cleared, stuff like that. And then, yes, you do create a certain kind of unrest. But if we were to have an immigration system globally amongst our world leaders where we have enough judges and caseworkers hired to process these situations and these cases to get people into the country or keep them out if they do present that danger, then we should be investing in that. That's what the right always wants to talk about, how, they have their stuff in order. Well, let's make sure that we are getting everything in order, and let's make sure that we are being, the conservatives of the family and family values, because there are some people that are coming into the country where they have family members already over there. Maybe their children have already crossed the border or something like that. And we should be allowing those people to, come together. And it's just a ridiculous talking point on the right to say open borders this and open border that, because I've yet to hear anybody who's a serious politician on the left of any country say, hey, let's just open these borders up and just let people in.
It's a fear tactic. It's the same thing that they do.
It's racism.
Yes, it's a fear tactic based upon racism. And you get the brown people, or whatever you want to call them,
or they pray to somebody different.
Especially that. And it's the same tactic that they use in every country. But then you have to look at it like, what does the UN do? Like, what are they good for?
They're good for nothing. That's one of the few areas I agree with Donald Trump in. The UN is pointless and it's stupid.
It is. Because as you said, if you had a comprehensive system, then I'm thinking to myself, like, well, isn't that the UN? Isn't that they're supposed to be regulate international immigration?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't. Like, they leave it on to the countries, but then you funnel all of the stuff into this. And then to double back on what you said with the England being a world power, 55 or 60% of all NATO forces are from UK and the United States. Like, it's the bulk of it. It's between us two.
Exactly.
And so we go, so the world goes, with the exclusion of China. China does whatever China wants.
Right.
But you can't use a mongrel tactic, which is what a lot of them have been referred to, and then what they try and stick to is like, okay, look what happened in France, and this is their
right. They'll take like one or two examples of like actual, foreign people coming into the country and committing like acts of violence.
Yeah, but a lot of times these people may be of foreign descent, but they are natural born citizens.
Yeah,
most terrorists are domestic terrorists.
Yes,
and they get radicalized because their sect of the population is not spoken to, their needs are not met, and they often experience racism, discrimination, and everything else.
Not being accepted by society.
So we create them.
Yeah.
But they don't say that. They say that they're of Middle Eastern descent, and that's all that they say.
Yeah, that's it.
But this person has been here since they were 2, so they're as British as anybody else. They have the same British accent as you. They like fish and chips or whatever it may be, and they went through the school system. But the difference that they won't tell you is you created this person because you left them out, you bullied them, you told them they were less than. You restricted everything that you would give to a white British citizen, and you made them feel like they had no choice. And then when somebody comes on the internet or they play something on TV and it touches and pulls on your heartstrings because you feel a part of something,
right?
And you don't feel a part of the country. So
and they're saying like immigration is going to be the biggest issue in this election, pretty much. I mean, there's still a fair amount of people who didn't even understand what Brexit was to begin with, but now they're doubling down on wanting Brexit. But they still like, there's a lot of people that still don't know exactly what it is and what it means. And, you know, that affects trade and things of that nature, too. Like, there's so many intertwined issues that come with leaving the EU. And it's something that if other countries would have joined them in doing, which would have happened if, you know, France, if Le Pen would have won the French elections a few years ago, then you would have more power here. But the problem with Brexit is you've lost all negotiating power, because the EU is just not going at all. And they're pretty much looking at the UK and saying, well, you guys need us just as bad as we need you. They had the issues with Ireland and what was it, Northern Ireland, like the border there. Like, there's a lot of issues with that. And when it comes to the immigration, when it comes to these trade policies, when it comes to jobs in the economy in the UK, this election is so similar to what we're going to have in 2020, especially if it comes down to Bernie and Donald Trump, that I think that this is just going to be the first precursor of which way the elections around, not just in America, but around the globe as well, are about to start swinging.
Yeah, it's the same hot topics: immigration, health insurance, strength of the economy.
Yep.
That's the key.
That's the key. So, we'll see in a few weeks who wins the snap election. I'm going for Jeremy Corbyn. He's going for Boris Johnson. So.
I didn't say I was going for Boris Johnson.